Hello and thank you for joining me with this brief vlog, which is following on from two quite lore-intensive episodes for the Survivor Diaries. So we had part one, which is a normal child arrangements application, more or less going through the things that would happen in a typical child arrangements application. You can see the assumptions that the court might make. So section 1, subsection 2, capital A, for example, which is allowing the court to assume that the involvement of both parents in a child's life is in that child's interest. So this vlog is more to talk about how you can arrange, how you can avoid the court process, altogether. So I'm just going to go through, referring to Pat Craven's Living with the Dominator, things that you can check that's happening in your co-parenting relationship, and that may help you to understand whether it's a positive co-parenting relationship or it is an abusive co-parenting relationship. What's the advantage of keeping the child arrangements out of court? Court proceedings are incredibly stressful. They are very expensive if you're using a solicitor. Even if you're not using a solicitor, they're very, very stressful. Both parents end up feeling upset. I've mentioned before, they feel like they're on trial. And once an order is imposed by the court, there can be a lot of resentment about that order, and those orders quite often break down if the parties haven't made these arrangements themselves. As I've been doing throughout this series, I want to give an example of good practice so that you can see within your relationship, or your co-parenting relationship, an example of good practice and what you need to aim for. To do that, that would then show where that's not working, and in other words, where you've got an abusive co-parenting relationship. So how we deal with this really depends on who we are dealing with. In some cases there is, and in many cases I've mentioned already, some cases don't even get to court, and this is because the parents can somehow put their initial pain and upset at separation to the side, and then they can get on with the important job of looking after the children. I've mentioned very briefly about how in these situations where there may be an initial resistance to promoting good practice with the other parent, quite often when a parent, and I'm being completely gender neutral, the mother or the father has the children 24/7, 7 days a week, quite often that parent will then start to think, hang on, this is really exhausting, I could do with a bit of a break. And that is why a lot of these parental alienation allegations just don't work. I'm going to come back to parental alienation just briefly at the end of this vlog even. I've mentioned that whether or not you can avoid court very much depends on the kind of co-parent you're working with. So in Pat Craven's book, Living with the Dominator, you'll see reference to the good father. The good father is appreciating that parenting is really, really hard. He does his share of the parenting. He does the feeding, he does clothing. Traditionally, this has in the past been more given as a woman's job. A woman's place is in the home. There's a lot of books in the 1950s, if you look for them, the Good Housewife Guide, which tells you how to apply a little bit of makeup and make sure the children are all quiet and well behaved before he comes in from work, whatever time, for his tea. And this is what we were dealing with sort of 50 years ago in the 1950s, 60s. This was the predominant attitudes in those kind of relationships. So the good father is already stepped outside of these traditional models, and what he is doing is he's doing his share of the parenting. He's encouraging the children to treat their mother with respect. He will have an active discussion with the mother about the best way to handle a situation, and then the two of them will implement that. They're singing from the same hymn sheet. This is the perfect co-parenting example that we would all love to have if we could. In addition, the good father also likes to spend time with the children, and he's happy to do so. He's happy to have them at short notice. We're going to compare this to the bad father in a second. Another feature of the relationship, the co-parenting relationship, again I'm specifically talking about mothers now, and the co-parenting relationship with the good father, is that the good father, like you, will understand that things pop up in a child's life. It's very, very busy looking after children. You've got school, you've got appointments after school, medical appointments, dentist appointments, lots to juggle. And this father, the good father, is understanding of that. He can accommodate last-minute changes, birthday parties. Even if they appear on his contact time, he could take the children, or is willing to swap a different date if it's something important to the other parent. And in return, the reciprocal parenting can happen. The mother will happily do the same, because if you think about it, and if I keep saying how much hard work it is bringing up children, and I know this just from one child, what I would give anything for as a young mother of a young child when I'm absolutely exhausted is to know that I can allow the child to spend time with the other parent, and that child will be safe, well fed, cared for, encouraged, told that I'm thinking about them and that I love them even when I'm not there, as I would do in return. So this is the good father promoting the mother, promoting respect to the mother, promoting communication with the mother, and the mother during that time can actually have a bit of a rest, and vice versa. If you get these really, really good co-parenting relationships, so I'm thinking in particular about Paul and his co-parenting relationship with his ex-partner, and if it's really, really good, then they can be working on a 50-50, and both parents will have the most practical and best solution after separation where there are children, which is that both parents do an equal share of the work. Both parents will allow the other parent to take some time off and rest a bit, because it is very hard looking after children, especially single-handed. So there's your perfect co-parenting arrangements, and you're working with somebody who will understand that there's last-minute changes of plan. He may even already set his work around, and if he's working shifts, around when he can have the children. Just as mothers do and have to do, the father is also proving themselves and being supportive, helpful. They assist the process of bringing up children. I've set out how the good father would be, and I know that of all the women that I'm talking to, the mothers that I'm talking to who are having difficulty with child arrangements, I know that all of them, in a heartbeat, if I said, imagine I could wave a magic wand and this person who you're dealing with, who's difficult, there's all these problems in the child arrangements, I wave this wand and suddenly they are supportive, co-parenting. Have you got any problems with them spending time with the children? Of course not. Of course not, because if the children are well looked after, most parents want to be able to share that parenting relationship, because it's hard work. So what happens when we're dealing with the bad father? I've mentioned flexibility and about how the good father will be able to accommodate changes, things like that. The bad father quite often will use flexibility as a way of introducing last-minute changes to the expected arrangements. They use flexibility, inverted commas, as a tool to perpetuate the abuse. So he will change the time and the location of handovers, say weekly. Looking at Pat Craven's book, In the Rules of the Game, the abusive personality always has rules which will change. We're not supposed to know what these rules are, we just know if we get them wrong. So if he is, for example, fishing every weekend, and the new rule is that I must drop the child off at different fishing locations, he would then argue that that's me being inflexible if I said that I wasn't able to do it. And as a parent living on a single parent income, so a single income household, this is something that's not really that easy to do, to drive around to all of these places. However, I am then accused of inflexibility, wrongly. What else does the bad father do? Well, he may become deliberately uncooperative. So if it is, say, the mother's birthday, he may, on that weekend when he was due to have some contact, he may at the last minute change it. And this is the jailer coming through, the jailer stopping the mother from being able to do things that she wants to do. Stopping contact last minute is a very often a tactic of the abusive personality. They will assume that everything's going okay, and then right at the last minute, so that they can scupper the mother's plans, they will say that they can't have the child, or they want to have the child earlier. They will turn up and collect the child from school. Things that are not working cooperatively with the mother. All of those things, that's examples of the jailer coming through. If he does have the children, then you know it's not a healthy situation. He's saying things like, mummy has gone away, he doesn't know when he's going to next see her, and the children, well, when are they going to next see mummy? She's gone away for a bit. This is the opposite of the good father, who is telling them that mummy loves them and mummy's just gone out here and she'll ring them. So there's a difference in the way that he is with the children. I'm just going to stop here and just talk about something that I observe as a solicitor that I personally also found it very difficult to get my head around it when I started to understand it. So I didn't understand how the other parent of my child could be so inconsiderate about how the children were feeling. As a parent, if my daughter is upset, it really upsets me. One thing that I see quite often is mothers coming in to see me as a solicitor, and they don't understand how the other parent can be not caring about any upset to the children that he causes. And it's a difficult thing to get your head around, to understand that the bad father is not coming at this from the best interests of the child, which is of course what you'd normally expect most parents to do. And they're empathic, and it would pain them if they'd hurt their own children. That doesn't happen in an abusive relationship. The reason for that I'll go into in a different episode, and it's to do with seeing the children as property, and because they are property, it's a kind of oblivion to the way that they may be hurt, or it will upset them to hear bad things said about the other parent, which is another feature of what's happening during the contact with the bad father. The bad father, I've already mentioned, speaks badly of the mother, the co-parent, during direct contact with the children. And this is upsetting to children to hear. If they hear one parent spoken badly about, from a child's perspective, they quite often think that they are half mummy, half daddy, and therefore if daddy doesn't like mummy, he doesn't like this part of me. So this is the confusion that starts to appear around the child and how the child is feeling in themselves. The bad father will see babysitting as women's work and will offer to babysit while the mother goes out. This is, again, coming into these very traditional, old-fashioned views about parenting, where the mother is doing all of the work and the father may babysit for a couple of hours, but really it's the woman's work. My intention here is to give you an overview of a co-parenting relationship with somebody who is cooperative, a positive role model to the children, a positive example of co-parenting, which may not even get into court, but because these two parents can both see the common aim here, which is to make sure that the children are okay carrying on from their separation. I should just add as well, the bad father does not have to be the biological father of the children. This would occur in any kind of relationship where there are step parents or the mother has a new partner who is abusive as well. In this situation where the new partner is abusive, it doesn't matter that they're not his children. He will still, for example, tell the mother that she needs to have the tea on the table for them all. He will still undermine the mother, telling them they could stay up a bit late. Basically, whatever the mother says. If the mother says you must go to bed now, he will say, oh, come on, they can have another 15 minutes. Really subtle, but completely undermining the mother and her authority with the children, which is, of course, dangerous. Setting these out, setting the example of the good co-parenting, the bad co-parenting, what I want to bring this on to is the next episode that we will be preparing. It's quite topical at the moment. It's been heavily criticised. There's been a lot of upset about the concept of parental alienation. So I'm going to talk in the next episode about the allegation of parental alienation syndrome. This is not the same as talking about the law and how the law has treated it. In the next episode, I just want to look at the allegation, and as a family lawyer, where I see the allegation being made the most. Sometimes a genuine case of alienation, if we're going to stay gender specific, this may be the mother, and there may be some bitterness, some anger about the end of the relationship, and the mother irrationally is saying, no, you're not having the children, or is angry about that. Now that is really rare. Okay, so that's the least number of times that I see anything like that. 2 cases in 7 years. The second type of alienation, the most predominant type of alienation that I see, and I've got here about 4 or 5 cases in the 7 years I've been with my current firm, is where a father has managed to go into a 50-50 co-parenting relationship. This is still abusive. This is an abusive father who is then undermining the mother. So if we stay at daddy's house, we get to stay up till we want, we get to play PlayStation as long as we want, we get a pony, we get a puppy, and there are all kinds of things. The father here is deliberately undermining the mother. The 50-50 arrangement means that no maintenance is paid from either parent to the other parent for the children. So that mother may be struggling. She may be wanting things like manners at the table, the children to go to bed at a certain time, routines which are important, and she needs them consistently applied in both households. This is where it's open to abuse, because the bad father will manipulate this, spoil the children, effectively undermining her relationship with the children until the children are a little bit older, and then the father will start to introduce the idea that maybe they'd like to live with him or spend more time with him than the mother. And before the mother knows it, that she's being told that the children are now spending time during the week, and she might see them on the weekend. Now, this is a different type of alienation, and I do see these cases. I've said maybe in 7 years, 5, possibly 6 cases that I've seen where the mother is being alienated, genuinely alienated from the children by an abusive father. And then there's a third type of parental alienation that I'm going to talk about in the episode on the Survivor Diaries. This type is the most common. I see this allegation most of the time, that there is an application from a father who is abusive. The father who has not behaved correctly or appropriately with the children may even have stopped his own contact with the children, and then a few weeks later is saying, right, I want my contact to restart. Mother knows it's dangerous, and then there's the allegation. She's stopping my contacts with the children. She's alienating me from the children. Those children are being emotionally harmed by this attitude of this cruel mother who's stopping me from being the loving father that I can be. Now, I am going to, in these videos, coin another phrase, which is parental self-alienation syndrome. So we have parental alienation syndrome, and I believe that there is a large block of people who have self-alienated themselves. They've stopped their own contact, they've upset the children or made it harmful or a risk for the contact. A little bit of time passes, they may have indirect contact only, and then they will start the allegation that they are prevented. This abuse has been made up. Remember the liar. This is my own situation, and the vlogs are to talk about my own situation, and it's what I anticipate I'm going to be accused of when we get to court in June. It's the information that's going to be given to the CAFCAS officer before I've now got that letter from CAFCAS telling me that my appointment will be a week on Tuesday as it is now, and I'm already anxious. I already know that this CAFCAS officer is going to be told by the co-parent in my situation, by the abusive father, that really he's done everything he needs, and really the contact is not happening because his daughter has been alienated. She's nearly 16, she doesn't want to see him. He cannot accept that she has her own point of view about the abuse, the things that she's heard. He cannot accept that she actually is not okay with this, not okay with always hearing her mother being put down, etc., etc. We know that nothing has changed, and this is what I've got to deal with, this allegation, false allegation, that I have alienated the child, when in actual fact, he's the one that stopped his own contact in the first place. Parental self-alienation syndrome. This is just to give an overview, because the last 2 episodes that have been released this weekend have been very dry, very focused on the law, very focused on different aspects of the proceedings, going through as you would work through a child arrangements application with and without domestic abuse as a feature. This vlog is more to back that up and to help you to understand and see examples of healthy parenting, healthy co-parenting relationship, and an unhealthy co-parenting relationship. Again, looking at the book Living with the Dominator and seeing how this can affect children, which of course is the main aim of these videos. So thank you very much for tuning in to this video log for the Survivor Diaries. I hope that's been useful, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Thank you and bye.